Hey guys, back again looking at a subject matter we have not touched on in quite some time with a naval kit. This time of the USS California in 1/700th scale by Pit Road. This particular boxing she was seen in 1941, and additionally, this version comes with the additional metal barrels for her main armament, as well as some flag photo etch. Now, with this particular series, Pit Road's released several different versions of this same kit. One without the barrels and just the kit as is, one with initial wood decking, and so forth. So there are several different options here for which to build her. So that is something to pay attention to. Why we will only be looking at this particular version, there are several different boxing versions of it, which does give you a bit of leeway as far as which one you want to build as far as your price point. So let's open her on up and take a look. Oh, one additional sort of addendum. As I said, this is for her as she appeared in 1941. However, you can technically build her as in this configuration for anything up to basically the end of the 1920s, as this kit allows you to build her with the second catapult here. That was not installed till sometime in the late 20s. Fortunately, could not find an exact date. However, if you wanted to build her as she was initially christened, she would not have this second catapult, and you would need to basically replicate an additional turret. So let's take a look. Now, we'll start out here with the additional barrels and photo etch, as it's primarily just for the flag, and as I said, the main armament. There's not a whole lot to add here, other than it's nice to have metal barrels to work with as opposed to plastic. Now, some of the parts I've left in these protective bits of styrofoam. This is mostly just because some of the parts are more delicate. I'd rather not get damaged. So, starting out, we've got some parts for the superstructure and some of the detailing. Interesting note here, and hopefully this will show up on camera with the main radar mast. The plastic part by itself is not half bad. Yeah, it's sort of filled in, but by itself, I don't really have too much to complain about. So they did a good job there. Obviously, they do include a photo etch copy, but, out of the gate, the plastic part is serviceable. Beyond that, we've got a couple other odds and end parts, various equipment. Let's move on. We're going to the fur, since this is a mirrored sprue. Hopefully, I'll be able to get this off without too much issue. Okay, first out gate, we do have two of our main armament turrets. As I said, if you're going to build her as an earlier version, you'll need to use these for the number 3 turret in the aft section, as opposed to the additional sprue we'll see in a few minutes. Overall, the plastic armament's pretty basic. Nothing really write home about. We got some lifeboats, pretty basic, as well as a couple other odds and end parts on this sprue. Excuse me while I get this back on. Again, I do like that they included these protective bits for the parts. That is definitely a nice inclusion. More of the same sprue. I'm going to skip over that. Now, as I said, for the number 3 turret, you're going to want to use this part if you're building her as the box has, as 1940s and configuration. But if you're building her as the earlier configuration, you do not use that. Again, more armament parts, some of the catapult parts as well. is a couple more radar screens. Overall, they're not bad. We do have one of the masts and so forth. Next up, we do have all the parts now for the main superstructure. Detailing is fairly nice. The only complaint I have is the wood decking seems a little overscale. But again, this is something that could just be my eye. It does also come with a nice little name placard, so you will be able to display that with her. Overall, nice. Now, interesting, as this does give you options for doing a waterline or full hull, is that it's actually for the West Virginia. That's odd, is just to doing a little research. West Virginia class came after the Tennessee class. So it's weird that they chose to use that as their base, but I digress. And speaking of bases, it does come with a little base for her if you're displaying her in the full hull configuration. Last main sprue, we do have some more odds and end parts, including more life rafts and other detailing parts. Continue on, another part that they did do and some added protection. If I can get her out as she pops through. We have main forward deck. Again, the deck plane to me at least seems a little overscale, but no, it is serviceable. Overall, they did a very nice job at capturing a lot of the smaller detail. This back in. Now, here we finally get to our main hull pieces. As I said, it can be done as full hull or waterline. Mating between the two surfaces is quite nice. So just really all it's going to take is just a little bit of glue and she'll sit down nicely. These back on. Again, oops, do like that they included these little bits for protection. Obviously, you don't want to buy a kit and it come damaged out the gate. Okay, continuing on, we've got some more deck plating. As soon as I get this out, this time for the aft section. Again, much the same as the fore decking. Well, they did a very nice job. Get these out. These I left in the plastic bags just to make sure they don't get loose. We've got the bulk of the secondary armament, smaller guns, and there's a decent number of those, so that those will go in fairly nicely. Last up, we have our main Photo-etch sprue. Again, one of the big things you're going to notice is the very delicate main mass, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge to roll into the round shape. So that's one area you're going to probably want to take a little time and do it right. Again, as I said, the Photo-etch for the main radar screen is also included, and a little bit of definite improvement over the plastic parts, but the plastic part by themselves aren't half bad. They did a pretty decent job with those. Excuse me while I get everything back in, and then we'll touch on the decals. Okay. So moving on to the decals now. Pretty basic. It's not a whole lot to say here. You get two options for the flags, as well as the numbers and a couple other little insignia bits. Not a whole lot. Only complaint I have is they taped it to this protective sheet on both sides. So nice had they not done that. As mentioned before, you have your pretty basic paint scheme. Overall gray and black and red. Not if you built one ship from this era, you probably built them all. Nothing really to write home about. Only thing I would say is you might want to break up the deck coloring a little bit. A club member in the IPMS club that I'm with, it's an interesting technique using colored pencils that will go and pick out individual planks and break up the uniformity of it. So that is something to consider. Get this back in. Okay, now on to the instruction. So, obviously, assembly starts with opening up all the necessary little holes in the deck plating for all the various equipment to attach to before joining all that to the main hull. From there, it's primarily building up different subassemblies, the different cranes and launch rails for the scout planes, superstructure, and all mating everything to the main hull. So overall, there's a lot to do here. However, it's all pretty straightforward. They thankfully keep things from getting too complex. The main area where you will probably hit some complexity is building up the superstructure. And on that, you're just going to want to make sure you take your time and do it right. As I mentioned before, you'll want to pay careful attention to your main armament. If you are building her as she was up until 1941, between late 20s and 1941, I'm sorry, you'll want to use the additional launch catapult. If you're building her as earlier, you're going to want to use another one of these turrets. Beyond that, once you do have everything together, it all should drop in place without too many issues. And yeah, the only option thing there is then to decide whether to do her full hull or waterline. Get these last bits back in. So overall, this kit presents a lot of different options, which, in my opinion, is a good thing. It does give you the chance to build her as two different versions. You unfortunately cannot build her post Pearl Harbor, as she had a major refit and redesign following the attacks. So you don't have the parts for that, as main superstructure was completely changed out. However, if you want to build her as 41 and earlier, you do have all the parts you need to do that, which is great. Additionally, because you can get her in several different flavors as far as, extras go, that's also great. So this is one to definitely maybe take a look at if you are a fan of naval subject matter. And I would even argue if you just want to break into doing the subject matter, pick up one of the less equipped versions and do that. So that was a look at Pit Road's 1/700 scale USS California as she appeared from to 1941, with additional metal barrels and flag photo etch. Nice little kit with some good extras that definitely should turn out great once you get her built up. So until next time.